Hello, everyone. It's Ms. Rilling, and I am here to talk to you today about daylight saving time. Daylight saving time is the practice of advancing the clock during the warmer months so that darkness falls later in the day according to the clock. The typical practice of daylight saving time is to spring forward 1 hour in the spring and then to fall back 1 hour in the autumn. This past Sunday, November 1st, at 2 o'clock a.m. local time, clocks officially moved back 1 hour, giving you all an extra hour of sleep and returning us to standard time. Daylight saving time may seem like a funny practice. Indeed, at times its history sounds downright absurd. We owe our practice of saving daylight for the past century to a very enthusiastic bug collector. George Vernon Hudson, born in England, moved to New Zealand in 1881 at the age of 14. He found work at the post office in Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand, at age 16. Over his life, this entomologist amassed one of the finest and most complete collections of New Zealand insects, wrote a book titled The Butterflies and Moths of New Zealand, and also came up with the idea for daylight saving time. You see, Hudson's work at the post office interfered with his bug collecting during the summer months, as dusk came before the end of his shift. So, he proposed a 2-hour change where the clocks would be advanced during the summer, giving more daylight after work, and then turned back in the winter, when the season was not ideal for bug hunting anyway. He proposed that, in this way, quote, the early morning daylight would be utilized, and a long period of daylight leisure would be made available in the evening for cricket, gardening, cycling, or any other outdoor pursuits as desired. Daylight saving time was not adopted immediately, but the idea did spread. In a way, it was an old idea. Ancient Romans had kept time with water clocks that had different scales for different months of the year. And many other pre-medieval civilizations had also used unequal hours to keep time. Another Brit, William Willett, also conceived of daylight saving time just after Hudson's initial proposal. In 1907, Willett was a house builder who reportedly grew frustrated with his neighbors wasting daylight after he rode his horse out early one morning and saw how many people were still asleep. He proposed to transfer 80 minutes of daylight from the morning to the evening so that people had a long evening for recreation. He attracted the attention of Sir Robert Pearce, who introduced a bill in the House of Commons. It was not the Brits, however, who first introduced the policy. Port Arthur, Ontario, Canada, was the first city in the world to enact daylight saving time in 1908. Daylight saving time then spread across the world during World War I, when the necessity of conserving coal led to the desire for more evening daylight hours. Many countries abandoned daylight saving time after the war, but then reenacted it during World War II for similar reasons. President Franklin Roosevelt reestablished it in the United States, calling it wartime. After the war, U.S. cities were given a choice of whether or not they wanted to keep wartime, which was interesting, but it led to a confusing muddle of different cities on different times until in 1966, Congress enacted the Uniform Time Act, which standardized daylight saving time. In 2007, so pretty recently, the Energy Policy Act added 4 weeks to summertime, making the schedule we have now. Around 70 countries observe daylight saving time, but these countries do not do so uniformly. For example, Hawaii and Arizona are 2 U.S. states that do not observe daylight saving time. This is emblematic of a patchy, confused framework of time changes. Countries near the equator tend not to observe the time change, since daylight hours do not change enough to merit a shift. On the flip side, countries that are near the North Pole or the South Pole do not observe a time change either. As it is already dark all day during the winter and light all night through the summer, there's really no point in messing around with the clocks. So, I'm assuming we're not all amateur bug collectors. We're not all involved in World War II, and we are perfectly capable of having no time shifts at all instead of daylight savings time. So why do we still change our clocks twice a year? According to proponents, the practice can save some energy. It decreases the demand for electric lighting. However, it may increase the demand for heating and cooling. Sure, it does give us more time after work to be out in the sun. People often say that we have daylight saving time to help farmers, or so that school children are not waiting for the bus in the dark. But neither of these issues is fully solved by daylight saving time. After all, farm animals do not use a clock to tell time. My husband's dairy farming great uncle up in Minnesota has never observed daylight saving time because his cows need to be milked and refuse to ever wait for an extra hour. But daylight saving time might have other positive effects. It might have the effect of keeping pedestrians safer on the roads. This is not limited to human pedestrians. An Australian study found how daylight saving time keeps koalas safer by reducing koala vehicle interactions by up to 11%. But there are negative effects as well. In the spring, when shifting the clocks means losing an hour of sleep, there is an increase in traffic fatalities and harmful medical errors following when clocks are moved forward. There are also increased heart attacks and strokes after the time changes. The change may trigger a misalignment of our circadian rhythms, which can increase human stress responses. So should we end daylight saving time? Well, maybe permanent summertime would be nicer. That's what Russia thought when they shifted their clock to permanent daylight saving time in 2011. It worked great through the spring and summer. There was plenty of time for outdoor recreation in the evening hours. But in the depths of winter, the shift meant that the sun was rising at 10 a.m. in Moscow and 11 a.m. in St. Petersburg. This morning darkness has been really unpopular, and there is talk of reversing the decision. So maybe we should advocate for permanent standard time, as does the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. They argue that too much daylight in the evening reduces sleep duration by an average of 19 minutes. And you don't snooze, you lose. Whether we want to spring permanently ahead or fall back to standard time forever, Americans have been grappling with how to regulate our clocks and our lives. As of September 2020, at least 32 states have considered at least 85 pieces of legislation to make changes to our current practice of daylight saving time. Though there's no clear consensus, it is amazing to me how we can really make our own time and can change it. Thank you.